Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, Simone Milasas, your host, and today I have the wonderful Mr. Christopher Hughes. Welcome, Chris.
Oh my gosh, it feels like forever since I've been on your podcast. I miss it.
Yeah, you are, I've got like 5 regulars. It's like, I think 5 people that I love doing podcasts with because you guys are, well, you're friends of mine, colleagues of mine, extrapolators with me, creators, and I love your level of intelligence. I was just saying before we started here, one of the reasons I love Chris so much is his wicked sense of humor and the way he sees the world. So thank you for that, Christopher Hughes, Mr. Christopher. So if you are listening to us, don't forget you can whip on over to you. Don't forget you can whip on over to YouTube and you can see us on YouTube as well. So for today, I want to do a bit of a different topic, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory about how this showed up. Is I've got some legal stuff showing up in my life at the moment, and Chris is one of my best mates, and he was at my house the other day. We're sitting on the veranda, and I just love the conversation he was having with me because and Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, said, you need to have like that strength of just going, I will destroy, right? And I was like, okay, because I tend to, when someone, and Chris pointed out to me that this person was very gaslighting, I have tended to, I'm going to talk about it in the past tense, is sort of do this like, whoop, and maybe take a couple of steps back and see if I can sideswipe it rather than sort of come on head on to it. And Chris gave me some home play, which I'm going to talk to you about a little bit later. But first off, I wanted to talk about gaslighting is the topic that we have today. And Chris was telling me about a holistic psychologist that he follows on Instagram and some of the ways in which people gaslight. And there is a movie out called Gaslighting, which has been out forever, and I highly recommend you watch it. It's incredible when you watch it and you find out just how many ways throughout your life that maybe you have been succumbed to gaslighting. Or are you a gaslighter? Is that something that, that turns you on? And I'd like to ask you, is it actually creating everything that you'd like to create? So these are some of I found this article that a friend of mine sent me many, many years ago. And the first one is, this is forms of gaslighting, right? And the first one is they tell blatant lies. Number 2, they deny they ever said something, even though you have proof. Number 3, they use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. Number 4, they weigh you down over time. Number 5, their actions do not match their words. Number 6, they throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. Number 7, they know confusion weakens people. Number 8, they project. Number 9, they try to align people against you. Number 10, they tell you or others that you are crazy. And number 11, they tell you everyone else is a liar. And someone sent that to me. It's, I guess, typical, gaslighting techniques that people use. But one of the ones that you were talking to me about is the telling a lie and how people be with that. And I wanted you just to expand on that if you can for people to see if they recognize that that's actually occurring in their life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's actually rewind a bit to 2016. And in 2016...
Should we make like a, like the recorder?
Yeah, like a we're going through a warp.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 2016. Take us back, Chris.
Oh my gosh! Remember how many people that are alive today actually went through that? Actually had to rewind tapes. Remember that? Instead of skipping tracks.
I do.
Yeah. No, but in 2016, that's when Donald Trump was elected. Okay. Now, for those of you listening, no, this is not like a a Democratic rant on the Republican Party and President Donald Trump. I'm a Canadian living in Australia. I have no investment in American politics. But as an outsider, watching what was occurring with that election was very, very interesting because you had this man who was fairly, not just fairly, he was bold-faced lying to people and doing the second thing you said on that list with gaslighting, denying what he'd said, even though it was on record, on tape of what he had said. And what it did for the entirety of the population, really, the entirety of the planet in some cases, is it got us to stop thinking that anything was necessarily true anymore. Totally undermined our sense of what was true and right. Now, that is what gaslighting is meant to be doing. And I actually think that has been a bit of a gift because for me personally, I no longer believe anything at face value anymore. So,
Yeah, you know, you
yeah,
said to me, I think it was 2021, and you said to me, I don't believe anyone anymore. I don't believe it. And it was such a gift to me because I don't know, I told you that, but I took that on board as well. And someone I work closely with, we had so many chats and discussions because she grew up in her household. Government is looking after you. Government knows everything. Government's got your back. So all of a sudden in 2020, 21, etc., she started to question everything and was like, oh my God, the government. And I was like, did you seriously believe the government? You know, like that what they're saying is truth. And she said, Simone, that's what I grew up with. You believe the government. You believe the people who you have given this, I don't know, this hierarchy sort of thing that they're going to take care of you, and you believe them. And she had to unravel all of that and discover that maybe she knew something different. So I agree with you. I think it's been an absolute gift that we start looking at that is like, if you don't believe anyone, what do you know?
exactly. So there was that. There was the 2016. And then, as you say, there was everything that occurred with COVID. And we used to live in a world that was so black and white and so cut and dry for most people. And like your friend would believe what the government told them. And then suddenly we're forced into this situation where your belief system doesn't necessarily coincide with your political leanings. And you're looking at people like Trump and his stance on things like vaccines and COVID and going, hang on a minute, do I actually agree with this guy on this issue? But you don't want to because of all of the other lies that have occurred and things that have happened in the past 4 years. And then you realize that some of your ideals and beliefs and what you actually think is occurring are a little similar to what organizations like QAnon are talking about. And you go, hang on a minute. The gift in all of this to me is instead of just assuming black and white and these people are right and these people are wrong and I'm more on this side of the spectrum, you had to start to evaluate what was true for you and pick and choose your points of view based on what was light and true for you, rather than, oh, I'm aligned with this side of the spectrum, which I find very interesting. So have we been gaslighted? Yes, intensely. And I kind of think that's a bit of a gift because it's made us sort of stop and go, hang on a minute. I'm not buying anything as true and real anymore. What's true for me?
What is true for me? I like that. What is true for me? I'm even writing it down. So I want to talk about a little bit going to making this, I guess, from my personal experience, but not delving into that, because you really, really did help me the other day. I'm not sure if you know how much. And the piece that I really like, I know that this legal stuff that I'm going through at the moment, I will come out more of me. I will come out a greater version of me. I will come out stronger. I will come out, you know, with that, because everything that I haven't been willing to have a look at is sort of in my face, like the energies I haven't been willing to receive, or my, you know, utopian world of where isn't everybody kind underneath it all, or, you know, all these sort of these misconceptions that I have sold myself over the years. And now I'm like having to go, okay, hang on a second. And the way you spoke to me, Chris, was like, if I can look at, if I'm standing somewhere instead of sidestepping and instead of going backwards, you just empowered me to have this strength to stand my ground and also take a step further and take a step closer and take a step closer and be bigger and bigger and bigger and like exponentialize myself and my being. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, if anyone is going through any sort of situation where they have this sort of projected at them. And a lot of times it might be verbal and it might be energetic, which is almost worse because you think you're going crazy for perceiving something, but it's there, you know. And I mean, one of the home plays you gave me, Chris, was to watch the Serpent Queen. And if you're in Australia, it's on Stan. If you're somewhere else in the world, it's going to be on Prime or I don't know, something that you guys have in America, etc. But it's the Serpent Queen about Catherine de Medici, which is incredible. So much fun to watch. But also I started to write down my home play of just how she really, like, she did not stop. She just kept going. So can you sort of navigate and walk us through that when someone is functioning from that place?
Yeah, well, you said it earlier when you're talking about like that belief in people, and we want to believe that everyone is good down at heart and they have the best interests and the world is a beautiful place and we want to hold hands and sing kumbaya with our rose-colored glasses on. And there are people out there that are snakes. There are people out there who will say one thing but do totally opposite. Another form of gaslighting that you pointed out. And this legal situation that you came in, I recognized the behavior of this person that you were dealing with, and essentially what she was doing is lying and doubling down with another lie and then lying again and trying to undermine your sense of self and your sense of strength by using scare tactics. She was barking very loud, which makes sense because she was a female dog. Oops, not supposed to say that kind of thing. And when I pointed out the scare tactic thing and that this was a form of gaslighting, was so cool to watch you go, you're right. No, I'm not going to give this person any power. I'm not going to step down. I'm not going to step back. I'm not going to negotiate with terrorists. I'm going to step into the ring and go, you want to fight? Let's fight. Now, what I want to point out to our listeners that I'm not talking about condoning fighting and fighting is the answer and we should all fight, but how many confrontations do you avoid because you think it's better or more empowering or the more dignified route to not engage in battle? And this person was doing just that. She was threatening a fight. Yeah. She was doing what North Korea does to South Korea.
Yeah.
You go ahead. I think we've got a little lag.
I just want to, everything that is, yeah, we do have a little lag. So everything that Chris is talking about and everywhere that you have been avoiding this, like going in for the fight and having that strength and the conflict and you think, oh, I'll just take it, you know, everything that is and everywhere that you've been choosing that instead of choosing something different so that you can create a change. And that's what I'm looking for. Everything that is times a gazillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong,
good and bad, pot and pop, all nine, shorts, boys, beds, and beyonds.
And that is the access consciousness clearing statement, which is, yeah, I know. So that's the access consciousness clearing statement. And you can go to theclearingstatement.com if you haven't heard it before. And the clearing statement with all of this gaslighting is really going to do you a huge favor because here's the thing. It's like none of it's real, right? It's someone like, as Chris said, throwing the scare tactics, like throwing the little bombs in there. And a lot of times people will use a level of intelligence to throw that in there. And then you're like, oh, I don't know about that. So that must be correct, you know, and instead ask a question, investigate, do your own research. It's like move forward and do not let anybody take control over you and your life and your choices. This is your life. You get to choose it. And like Chris said, it's not about going into fight, but it's about standing your ground for you. It's like, do you have the courage to be the one that chooses what your life is and how it shows up?
And 2 days later, the person who is threatening you, what did they do?
Well, they sent me an email and they said, okay, what if we do this? And it was sort of like this, like, oh, look, we can just put the icing on the cake and everything's going to be okay. And we can have this. And I don't want to go too much into it. But basically, I went, oh, and I showed Chris and he said, no, she's a rattlesnake. And he said, stand your ground because it's just going to come back and bite you. So, can you talk a bit about a rattlesnake and what that is as a tool?
Yeah, well, rattlesnakes bite because that's what rattlesnakes do. And but we still often function from this illusion and delusion that if we're nice enough to a rattlesnake, if we sing to them softly, and if we just use the correct words, they will turn into pussycats and want to get on our lap and cuddle. No. See, one of the things that we talk about in Access Consciousness, and to me it's one of the most creative tools in our arsenal, is allowance. And allowance is everything is just an interesting point of view. But where most people get into trouble is they think allowance is acceptance. They think allowance is being passive in your life and allowing everything to be as it is. No, allowance is recognizing everything that is as it is and not expecting it to be any different. See, with this idea of allowance as passivity and allowance as acceptance, you think you can eventually hug the rattlesnake because it's okay that it's a rattlesnake and everyone will get along, even the rattlesnakes. But in allowance, where everything is just interesting, you'll recognize that it's a rattlesnake and not try and hug it.
There's an old joke about how a guy finds a rattlesnake on the road and it's somewhere cold, maybe where you're from, Chris, originally. It's like in the rattlesnake is frozen, right? So he takes this rattlesnake home and to look at to unfreeze it, etc., and take care of it. And so he puts it in front of the fire so that the rattlesnake can defrost, etc. And then the rattlesnake defrosts and bites him. And the guy says to him, why did you do that? I helped you out. I took you home and I took you into my home and I thawed you out and I made sure that you didn't die. Why did you bite me? And the rattlesnake looks at him and says, I'm a rattlesnake. That's what I do.
Yep.
So how many rattlesnakes do you all have in your life that you keep trying to be kind to and keep trying to bring into your home and thinking that they will change when they will not? And everything that is, and everywhere that you have been blinded by yourself, will you please destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds.
Mm.
Trying to deal with this lag that we've got here. But what are some of the other gaslighting ways that you have seen, Chris, or read about, etc.? And what would you advise people on how to be with that?
Yeah, one of the key ones I see a lot of people doing, particularly in relationship, is where they get trained slowly over time in their relationships, and it could be a business relationship or personal, to constantly doubt themselves and constantly worry what the other person is going to think and if they're going to approve of your choices. That is a form of abuse, ladies and gentlemen. If you are spending 99 to 100% of your time worrying, are they going to be okay with this? That means you've given up you and you've given up your choice in favor of them. Every choice that you make, every breath you take, you are paranoid about how it will be. Will this be okay with them? That's not a life. You want to surround
Mm-hmm.
yourself with people that support and accept you and celebrate you and want you to have your choice and all of you and your freedom to be who you are, not have to go, are they going to be okay with this? That is a form of gaslighting, and it's something that you've got to start to recognize that people do to you. They slowly but surely, by reacting to you and your choices, and they do it quite often with anger and upset. You'll do something, you'll choose something, and they'll get annoyed or upset or angry with you, and slowly over time beat you down into constantly worrying how they're going to react.
I just want to talk about the flip side for a second, because as we're talking about this, we're talking about people, gaslighting towards us. But from no judgment, I'd actually like to address, if you're listening to this and you're like, damn, I do a lot of those things in my relationship, or I'm really controlling. Control will never create anything greater, even though you think it does. If you truly desire to have greater relationships with like your partner, your friends, your colleagues, etc., and you are recognizing that maybe you're the one that's gaslighting and you would like to change something, like if you're doing this, some of my suggestions would be is to ask them a question. Okay, is like not to control them, but it's like, hey, what would you like to do here, or would this work for you? Like, I was watching a movie last night and there was these two gay guys who were getting married, right? And one of the gay guys was kept saying, like, he basically took control of the house and he was like, no, we're not having that there, we're not having this there, no, that's where our wedding photo is going to go, no, this is where this, and was just sort of like bossing around what the house was. He was never, and he may be the one who knows how to set the house up the best, but there was no question in his world of like, hey, if I put this here, would you like that? Like, do you like that painting hanging over there? Like, being, because if you're going to live in a home together, maybe one person is better at setting it up, but what if you ask the other person a question? Hey, what colors do you like? Like, let's, choose the couch together, or whatever that is. It's like empowering them so that they have choice too. And it's not, doesn't have this sense like you are the only one that is choosing. Because if you do that, you'll end up destroying the relationship that you have. Like, it will just slowly like dwindle and not create anything greater. And if you are choosing any relationship, whether it's, friendship, colleague, your family, whoever you're shagging or whatever it is, it's like, would you like to choose it as an infinite being and have that explosion of possibilities? Or are you happy of being like this finite being that contracts and controls everything and only focuses on what you can control, then creates limitations? That might be fine for you. I know it's not for me. I know it's not for Christopher. It's like, we are asking every day. It's like, what possibilities are available that we can literally explode into? Like, what else is possible beyond where we are currently choosing? Because there is so much available on this planet, but you have to choose it. You have to make a choice, and you have to have that strength and that courage to step outside of your comfort zone and choose it.
Totally. And if anyone ever makes you feel like they know better than you, that's gaslighting and that's abuse. And if you feel like
So can I
your
ask you a
point of view
question?
is you know better, that's also being abusive.
So what about when you tell me that you have a master's degree?
Well, that is true, Simone. I mean, you do these classes called The Joy of Business, but I have a master's degree in business and you have no formal qualifications. So I actually probably validate and give you like credentials by also being a Joy of Business facilitator. I'm just going to put it out there.
So this is this running joke between Christopher and I that he still hangs out with me and I don't have a master's degree, but he does. So we're kidding, ladies and gentlemen. So, and Mr. Christopher is an Access Consciousness facilitator, and he is a Joy Business facilitator, a fabulous one. He's not only that, ladies and gentlemen, he does not sell steak knives, but he's also a Right Voice for You facilitator and a Relationship Done Different facilitator. Anything else?
And then I freestyle. I do a lot of different things on different topics. One of the biggest areas that I talk to a great deal, which is not relationship necessarily, is sex. I do a lot of conversations about sex, sexuality, sexualness, sexual exploration, and expression. That's one of my favorite areas to talk about. I'm a pervert.
Well, no, you're not a pervert because you don't have a judgment about it. Other people may perceive you as a pervert because they have a judgment. And Chris has a podcast being released soon. When you do, I would love to do a podcast with you to introduce people to it, all of my listeners, because you've given me so much freedom in that area as well, Chris, and I would like the world to have that freedom as well. So that is up and coming, ladies and gentlemen. So don't forget to subscribe to Choice, Change and Action and follow us on Instagram. And if there's anything that you would like to, talk about, or any comments or anything like that, you can slide into our DMs and ask us a question and we will see if we can address. Yep, slide. That's it, Chris. Slide into the DMs. If you're not watching us right now, he's just given me his shocked face of me asking for you to slide into our DMs, because we are on YouTube. Don't forget, And please subscribe. You're going to get all the notes below. You'll get all of Chris's details below. And I'm actually going to see if I can get the gaslighting part that I spoke about, those 11 things, and I'll see if we can make that into a PDF that you can download once you subscribe. Because, guys, this is your life. It's like, if you can, I would like you to get as free as possible on anything that is limiting you, but it's your choice. Mr. Christopher, is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I just adore you so much, and it's always fun and illuminating to talk to you. So I look forward to more in the future.
Me too. I'm going to jump in my car and come to Brisbane and see you. So how does it get
Yay!
on that? Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Christopher, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at SimoneMilasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.